where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Maris.
Hello.
But it's not a Monday.
I don't know what day it is.
Yeah, Willow was under the weather or something like that, so we're just going to
Keep on keeping on.
Yes, you're the co-host today.
Yeah, co-pilot.
I'm sorry, this is rough.
Ugh.
So I'm going to trigger warning this immediately with dismemberment, sex work. I include it as a trigger because if you Google this anywhere else or listen to any other podcast, they're going to refer to sex workers in an unpleasant way. Mental illness and I guess drug abuse, although I only mention it. I'm not really getting into details. I'm not getting into horrific details because
like a good movie.
Huh?
This would be a good movie.
Well, it has been,
in
fact, and it's called Lost Girls. It's on Netflix about this case. And I highly recommend it. I will link it in the description of this podcast. So, between the years of 1996 and 2011, a predator stalked sex workers in the Gilgo Beach area in Long Island, New York.
Go-Go Beach?
Gilgo.
Oh.
Not Go-Go. Oh. The killer, or killers, has up to 16 victims. There are many suspects and even one arrest, but this case, as of right now, remains unsolved. The killer is called several things: the Long Island serial killer, the Gilgo Beach killer, and the Craigslist ripper. I've talked about this before on other episodes.
That murderers shouldn't get cool nicknames?
Yes, they should be like Ding Dong Butt Fart or something.
I agree, Ding Dong Butt Fart.
Or just the area. Like, the Long Island serial killer isn't a cool name. It's just a descriptive name. But the Craigslist Ripper, come on.
They're trying to rip off, Jack the Ripper, who, he wasn't cool either.
No, he wasn't. None of these people are cool. And I really don't like the culture we have around serial killers right now.
We should all call them butt farts.
They're just big butt farts.
Mm-hmm. Big, wet, flappy ones.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Well, I just the worst is around Halloween time. You'll see it on TikTok and Reels and stuff where people are like, my favorite serial killer. What do you mean your favorite, you unhinged loon? You shouldn't have a favorite serial killer. It's like saying, I have a favorite Nazi. No, you don't. Stop it.
And if you do, you're bad.
Yeah, very bad. Shame on you.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Lost Girls covers this, and it really kind of focuses on one of the possible victims, and you'll see why I say possible in a second, Shannan Gilbert, and it's a really good movie, and it's mostly about her mother and her mother's fight to get her daughter justice, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So, on December 11th of 2010, investigators were looking for a missing woman named Shannan Gilbert. She was 24 when she went missing in May of that year. She's probably the most well-known victim, but she isn't considered an official victim of the Long Island serial killer. But I'm going to talk about her first because if it wasn't for her disappearance, none of the other victims would have been found.
Well, I guess... I can't even think of something to say there.
Yeah, it's sad.
No, it's just sad, yeah.
Oh, this is incredibly sad. And the way... You'll hear me, I'm going to get on my soapbox for just a brief second,
all right.
But the way police treat cases involving sex workers is abhorrent and disgusting.
True.
From the time this woman goes missing, there was not months before they really looked for her.
Yeah.
And it was only because her mother pestered them over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
I feel like we covered that in Maris Monday where the police were like, we got to chill out for a week before we can go look.
Yeah, it's this is really important.
We had vacation plans, so no.
Well, the last case we covered on Maris Monday, the law used to be that if an adult goes missing, you have to wait a ridiculous 24-hour period.
Or maybe, I'm thinking of the campers that went up a mountain, they were required to wait a week or something.
Oh my God! Well, that was in Siberia.
Still,
and they waited because they just didn't give a shit.
Yeah, it's a police thing.
It is. So Shannan Maria Gilbert was born on October 24th, 1986. She had two younger sisters. Her mother left her father when Shannan was 5 because he was a heroin addict, pretty much. Mary, Shannon's mother, and her 3 girls then relocated to Ellenville, New York about 2 years later. Shannon's childhood wasn't good. It was very tumultuous and troubled. She had emotional and mental health problems and was described as, quote, difficult to manage.
Me too.
Yeah. As a result, between the ages of 7 and 13, she bounced around in foster homes because her mother just could not handle her.
Yeah.
Her younger sister and younger half-sister remained at home with Shannon's mother, Mary, and she only got to see her other siblings at school. And I just think that's really fucking sad.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people want to blame Shannon's mother for her childhood, but there are no resources for single moms who have kids with behavioral problems.
Nope.
And we're talking, like with Shannon's behavioral problems, this isn't that she was just like an obstinate or mouthy child.
Like ADHD or something.
Well, she's later diagnosed as bipolar.
Okay, yeah.
She would have very, like, psychotic breaks. Yeah. And that's not, like, something I think anybody untrained is equipped to deal with. I don't blame her mother. She was just doing the best that she knew how to do.
Yeah.
In addition, Shannan struggled with eating disorders and mood swings, and at age 12, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. However, Shannan would frequently refuse to take her medication because she didn't like how sleepy it made her. It also caused her to have tremors, and shake, kind of uncontrollably.
Yeah, that's bullshit. I understand.
Yeah, I've been on various psychiatric medication, and boy, the side effects are rough, y'all. So
it's barely worth it, yeah.
I don't blame Shannan for this, and it's not a weakness to take your meds. Let's just say that right now.
If you have medications, take them. I'm not saying that.
But they do come with side effects, and Shannan just refused her medication.
Yeah.
Shannan graduated high school early when she was only 16 because she was so bright. She was a very smart.
A lot of the people, I don't have bipolar, but I've heard it said that if you have it, you are very smart oftentimes.
My mother, late in life, she was kind of in the process and she stopped going and getting help, but she was almost diagnosed with bipolar and she was a brilliant person.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I've heard that connection before.
I have too. And unfortunately, she self-medicated with alcohol.
Not a good idea.
No. And Shannan, we'll get into it. We'll get into it in a minute. So she wanted to go into the field of nursing. So after graduating high school, she moved in with her grandmother and enrolled in nursing school. And she held down a couple of part-time jobs, which is pretty normal. She worked at Applebee's as a waitress, and she also worked as a secretary for a school. And I've been there. I've worked these little shitty jobs, and that's what they are. They're little shitty jobs. Don't pay crap, but you work your ass off. Ugh. I've done the whole waitress shit. I've done the secretary shit. It is bullshit. And so you're doing that and you're going to school. It's a lot. Shannan was a beautiful, bright girl, but her mental health issues were really rough and continued to derail her life and her plans. After about a year, she quit nursing school and her jobs because she's just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And she had aspirations of being a singer and an actress. And the thing was, it's not ridiculous aspirations. She was beautiful. She was talented and very bright.
Yeah.
But we know how that goes.
Not good.
No, me and Maris picked careers that would never pay also.
Yeah, right.
Artist.
Yeah.
Hooray. As we all know, working part-time jobs as a waitress and secretary pays shit and are so emotionally and physically taxing. She just wasn't making enough money to support herself because she wanted to be out on her own. So as a result, she turned to sex work, where she advertised her services on Craigslist, and this was netting her around $250 an hour.
Yeah, yep.
And, people will say, well, she was doing that to support a drug habit. No, she wasn't.
Yep, you just need money to live, that's all. You have to find it somehow.
And this is the part, it makes me tear up a little bit, because she used this money to reconnect with her family, especially her mother. Oh. Yeah. Now, a lot of people covering this case will say she had addiction issues. However, there is zero evidence of this. Her mother, Mary, maintained that Shannan wasn't on drugs. And honestly, I believe her.
I just love how they always throw out that as a thing just because you don't like what someone's doing. well, they're doing sex work. They must be
Well,
on
clearly
drugs.
because she had mental health.
Obviously.
She had mental health issues and didn't take meds. She was self-medicating.
Or it's just really hard to make your way as a lady, especially a single lady in the world, just in general, especially in the early 2000s. Are you kidding me? And it's only gotten worse.
Yeah, it's difficult. And I don't know how anyone's making it. Like, I don't even know how we make it. It's just
I don't know. We're powered by hopes and dreams.
Yes. And that tank's empty, y'all. So
and
I don't know
I'm
what's
not
going
doing
on.
sex work. No one wants to see that.
I would pay. Sorry about it. But I hate this stigma that all sex workers are drug addicts.
I'm going to say a new one. I'm going to say all investment bankers, drug addicts. All of them.
Well,
Every
that I
one.
believe.
Are you an investment banker? How's it? How's the drugs?
How's the cocaine?
You're doing all of them. I know
Yes.
you are. I see it right through the podcast.
Wow.
Yeah,
Those
it's
are powers
aggressive.
you have.
It's aggressive.
It is aggressive.
Bankers are all drug addicts. Is how it is.
When I did sex work and I had sex worker friends, none of us were on drugs.
Who can
None of us.
afford it? Investment bankers.
Well, we
Case
could
closed.
because we was making money, but we also had kids and mortgages and rent and car payments. We didn't have time to mess with drugs. Now, I'm not saying all my friends were drug-free, but the majority of them were. I have met sex workers, and you can go on like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram if they're not blocked, and you'll see that most of these ladies are just businesswomen. That's it.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Moving on.
Yep.
Shannon did quite well doing sex work, but frequently told friends she really wanted to be an actress, singer, or writer, or all of the above. She had big dreams. She moved in with her boyfriend who lived in New Jersey and was seriously considering giving it up. Because usually when you get in a serious relationship, your significant other, especially if they're male, super duper don't want you to do sex work anymore.
Well, they can eat shit.
Yeah. I actually, I can't even recall how many I dumped because of that ridiculous crap.
Right.
Like, well, you don't work at McDonald's then.
Yeah, you give up your job.
Stupid. On May 1st, 2010, Shannon had a new client that lived in an upscale neighborhood and gated community. Shannon was very careful on her dates. She hired a driver. She called to check in with friends and her boyfriend, so she's doing all the things right.
Mm-hmm.
Her client's name was Joseph Brewer, and he lived on Oak Beach, Long Island. She spoke to friends that she was a little anxious about going because he was a new client. She didn't know him.
Okay.
It is reported by some that she took this job kind of as her last job to pay for a birthday gift for her mother.
Oh, that's real fucking sad. I know that you're making it sadder. I don't know what you're gonna say, but
This
it's
case
probably
breaks my heart.
Oh God.
And I will probably cry at some point.
Cut it out. No.
So she arrives at her client's house, and the driver, Michael Pack, was outside, kind of driving around, waiting for her.
Mm-hmm.
And then, a short while later, he gets a call from Shannon, and he says that Shannon was, quote, inexplicably unhinged. Shannon was terrified of her client for some reason. So her driver came in to talk to her to see what was going on.
All right.
And she tells him, hey, I think this guy's going to kill me.
That's not great.
However, then for whatever reason, she thought her driver was in on this.
She gotten real paranoid.
She did.
I know, maybe the bipolar stuff can make you feel like that.
Yes, it can.
Yeah.
And I do think that Shannon unfortunately suffered a very serious mental health episode this evening. She is screaming, crying, incoherent. Remember, her bipolar disorder is untreated.
Yeah.
At 4:51 a.m., Shannon makes a frantic 911 phone call. This call lasted nearly 23 minutes. At first, she is inside the house of her client. She is screaming and crying, saying they are trying to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the dispatcher is trying to get her to calm down. She really is incoherent. I will link the entirety of this phone call. Mm-hmm. It was made public on May 13th, 2022, so just only recently.
Okay.
And it's a difficult listen, so be in a good mental health space when you listen to it. She is clearly so scared, really freaking out. Now, during this call, she fled Joseph Brewer's house and started running around the gated community, knocking on doors, screaming that her driver, Michael Pack, and her client, Joseph Brewer, were trying to kill her. When people offered to help or call the police for her, she would run off.
Yeah.
It seemed like what she was trying to do was get people to let her inside their house. where she would feel safe.
She's not a black-eyed children, is she?
No.
Okay.
And people, of course, she's hysterical. She's crying. She's acting kind of, not acting well.
No, I probably wouldn't let her in. Sorry.
Yeah, a lot of people do blame the neighbors, but come on, if some woman is screaming and crying and not making any sense, I'm not letting her in my house. I would call the police for her. I would sit outside with her.
Right.
But I'm not going to let a strange person who seems not well into my home.
Nope.
And because she was acting sketchy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sympathetic towards her, but I do feel like in that situation, I would not be letting that person in.
Now, this call ends at approximately 5:15, 5:20 a.m. with the police. It ends kind of abruptly. And they waited until after 6 a.m. to arrive at the scene to locate Shannan.
Again, with the police,
Now, I see all kinds of accounts, but it's pretty clear they didn't look too hard.
No.
She was a sex worker, and we know how police treat sex workers.
Yeah.
Not great. It would be 18 months before her body was found on December 13th, 2011.
That is a long time.
It is a very long time. And in fact, when they were, it's the constant petitioning of her mother that got them to go. They were like just doing it to make her shut up, basically.
What dicks.
And when they go up to Gilgo Beach, which is right by this gated community, it's only like about less than a mile away.
Okay.
They don't find her first. They find 2 other bodies.
The plot thickens.
Yes, it does. It was found in a mossy trench about a mile from where she was last seen, running in a hysterical, fearful state. Her purse, ID, and cell phone were found a few days before her body was located. Her personal belongings were about a quarter of a mile from where her body was found. That's really important. Pay attention to that. It was in the backyard area of a man named Peter Hackett. Naturally, Shannan's mother was utterly devastated, but what was strange was that police took her to Peter Packett's house, took her onto the balcony, and then pointed in the direction of where they found her body. And I'd like to know what the fucking point of that was.
I don't know, but Peter Packett's hard to say.
Yes, it is. I've
and
almost
Peter
fucked
Piper
it up.
or something.
There are some names in here that are going to be real rough for me, all, so you just bear with me.
Peter Packett pointed.
Yes, but why did they do that? Like, I've really run this over in my mind just to torture her? I don't understand.
I think it was an obtuse officer who's just...
Yeah, trying to get her to shut up. Say, see, we're working on it.
Right.
But the most horrifying thing they discovered while looking for Shannan were 10 other bodies around the Gilgo Beach area between May of 2010 and April of 2011. Investigators now suspected they had a serial killer on their hands because fucking obviously it's 10 bodies.
Did they take a look at Petey?
They cleared him. He had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
He was looked into, though.
Yeah.
And so was her client.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was looked at, Joseph Brewer. Now, police never did include Shannan as a part of the victims of the Long Island serial killer.
Fucking why?
Police ruled her death accidental.
Y'all.
However, Shannan's mother, Mary, and Mary's lawyer, as well as an autopsy technician who did a private autopsy on Shannan, all believe she is one of the Long Island serial killer's victims. And here's why. When they did the autopsy on her, she has skeletal remains by this point. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really hard to determine cause of death when you don't have any soft tissue left.
Yeah, right.
However, her hyoid bone had fractures.
What's that?
That is a bone
neck,
in
right?
your neck.
Yeah.
That the only way you get fractures like that is for manual strangulation.
Okay, well, case solved. We figured that out.
Yeah. Pretty much. But the police are just like, also the location. She's with all these other bodies.
Right. That's why I screamed y'all. It's because, okay, we got 20 of the same thing, but not this one.
No, this one's different for no reason. This one's different
because we don't want to look into it. That's why. I figured it out.
What profession did those 10 people have? Just guess.
I'm going to guess that they were sex workers.
Yes. What did they all... Did they have something in common besides that? Maybe their looks?
Did they all have the little bone thing in their neck?
Yeah, many.
Oh,
but see, a lot of them were just... We'll get to the deaths and stuff. But they were all very petite. Shannan was a very small lady. She was very tiny. All of them were petite. All of them were sex workers.
Yeah.
And I'm so mad at the police on this, I'm going to have an aneurysm, but whatever.
You have
I would like to
huge sex
include...
worker, that'd be weird.
Huh?
If you had a huge sex worker, that'd be weird.
God
It's
damn
like
it,
a
Maris.
giant.
No, he did
Oh.
not. But I will also add a trigger warning for misgendering of what I think is clearly a trans person.
Okay.
But we'll get to that in a minute. So I just think it's too much of a coincidence with the location. Yes, it was 3 miles away from the other victims, but again, I'm not sure, as are many others, that this was the work of one serial killer alone. And I'll get to the theories at the end of this episode.
It's the driver.
No,
Oh.
he was cleared.
Oh, okay.
In an update to Shannan's case, her death was ruled finally as inconclusive. I still think that's dumb. It should be ruled as homicide.
Because the neck thing, I mean, that just doesn't happen.
Now look, there are a ton of conspiracy theories about her case. That her client killed her, that her driver killed her, that they were trying to sex traffic her. I don't believe in any of that.
It was the police, right? Whether they did it?
Yeah, they think that too, but I don't believe that either. And we'll get to what I think later. So who are the other victims? We're going to start with the unidentified victims first. 3 victims remain unidentified: Peaches, Baby Doe, and Asian male. Peaches has been identified through DNA testing as the mother of Baby Doe.
Oh.
Yeah. Peaches, Jane Doe number 3. On June 28th, 1997, the dismembered torso of an unidentified young African-American woman was found at a place called Hempstead Lake State Park in the town of Lakeview, New York. The torso was found like in a Rubbermaid container, which was dumped next to a road, which was kind of on the west side of the lake in this state park. Investigators said that the victim had a tattoo on her left breast of a heart-shaped peach with a bite taken out of it and 2 drips falling from the core of the peach.
Mm-hmm.
On April 11th, 2011, police in Nassau County discovered dismembered skeletal human remains inside a plastic bag near Jones Beach State Park. The victim was dubbed Jane Doe number 3 in December of 2016, and then Peaches and Jane Doe number 3 were connected through DNA. So they're the same one.
Okay.
Peaches was the mother of Baby Doe. Both the baby, the toddler, and this woman were wearing matching gold jewelry as well.
Yeah.
Baby Doe is a third set of remains, the skeleton of a female toddler between 16 and 24 months. But some accounts will vary and say 1 to 4 years of age. It's really hard to tell.
Right.
It was found on April 4th, 2011, about 250 feet away from the partial remains of a woman named Valerie Mack. The body was wrapped in a blanket and showed no visible signs of trauma. DNA tests linked her to Jane Doe number 3, aka Peaches, and the little girl was wearing gold earrings and a matching necklace to her mother.
Right.
Now, this one is the misgendering, called Asian male.
Okay.
I do not like this. We're going to say Asian person
Okay.
because we don't know their pronouns because they're not here to talk.
Mm.
So I'm going to be using gender-neutral pronouns referring to them. The body of a young Asian person who had died from blunt force trauma was discovered on April 4th, 2011 at Gilgo Beach, very close to where the first 4 set of remains had been discovered in December of 2010. The victim was found wearing women's clothing and clearly, like, probably a sex worker.
Mm-hmm.
I think definitely this is a trans woman.
Right. Right.
Yeah. The ages range between 17 to 23 years of age. They were only 5'6", missing 4 teeth, and may have had a musculoskeletal disorder, which would affect the way they walked, meaning this person walked with a limp.
Mm-hmm.
The victim had been dead between 5 to 10 years. In September 2011, police released a male composite sketch of the victim because I guess they never want this person to be identified.
Right. Yep.
It is clear from the clothing and jewelry that was found on this person's remains that they presented as female.
Right.
And so if you want to find this person, why not do a side-by-side? You can keep the male sketch because you're cunts, I guess. And then on the other side, show them how they would have looked as presenting female.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I think you'll find them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to find them presenting them how people didn't see them.
They're just no great mouse detectives over there. They're just not.
It's just
They just don't give a fuck is what it is.
It's so callous and cruel
Yeah.
that in death you can't even be who you are.
Well, not even that. It's just like you're not making an effort to sketch them in a way in which they were drawn, like wearing stuff. Like,
Right.
why would you draw it with short hair when the person probably had really long hair?
Or wear a wig. You know, you can release several composites of how you think she or they may have looked.
Whatever. It's just,
It's just really disgusting.
Can't.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Because I bet you, like, former clients would recognize this person,
But
and
they
then we'd
don't
have a
care
name.
about finding them.
No.
Just the appearance of making an effort of looking.
Yes, because the public outcry by this point was really intense. So those are the unidentified victims. Now we're going to list identified remains. Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Maureen lived in Norwich, Connecticut, and was 25 when she disappeared. She was last seen on July 9th, 2007, saying that she planned to spend the day in New York City. She was never seen again. Maureen was a sex worker and a mother of two. She used Craigslist to pay the mortgage on her house. She'd been out of the sex industry for 7 months, but she returned because she had received an eviction notice. And she just was trying to take care of her kids.
Right.
Her body was found in December of 2010 during the search for Shannan. Shortly after her disappearance, a friend of Maureen's, Sarah Carnes, received a phone call from a man with an unfamiliar number. The man claimed that he had just seen Maureen and that she was alive and staying at a, quote, whorehouse in Queens, unquote.
That's my house.
Indeed. It's a whore home, honey.
It's a whore home.
He refused to identify himself and could not tell Sarah the location of the house. He told Sarah he would call back and give her the address, but he never called again. Sarah said that the man had no discernible New York, Boston, or Maine accent.
Damn, because those accents is good.
Well, they're easily recognizable,
Yeah.
and it is thought that the killer frequently, like, prank called the victims' families.
Okay.
Because he's a giant piece of shit.
Right, yeah.
At the time of her disappearance, she was working at a Super 8 motel in Manhattan. On the night of July 9th, 2007, she called a friend in Connecticut and told her that she was planning on meeting a client outside of the motel. Like many of the victims, Maureen was very petite. She was only 4'11" and only weighed 105 pounds.
So do you think the killer was like a really tall man that just hated
No.
shorties?
No, I think he's a sadoseksual predator.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And these are women he could easily overpower.
Oh, yeah, okay.
They're sex workers, and no one will miss them. And in fact, had Mary, Shannan's mother, not relentlessly fought for her, nobody would have found these women.
Yeah.
The next victim is Melissa Bartholomew. She was aged 24. She lived in Erie County, New York, and went missing on July 12, 2009. She had been living in the Bronx in New York and working as a sex worker through Craigslist. On the night she went missing, she met with a client, deposited $900 in her bank account, and attempted to call an old boyfriend, but the call wouldn't connect. Beginning 1 week later and lasting for 5 weeks, her teenage sister Amanda received a series of vulgar, mocking, and insulting calls from a man who may have been the killer using Melissa's cell phone. The caller asked Amanda if, quote, she was a whore like her sister. The calls became increasingly disturbing and eventually culminated in the caller telling Amanda that her sister was dead and that he was going to, quote, watch her rot.
Gross.
Oh, yeah. Police traced some of the calls to Madison Square Garden, Midtown Manhattan, and Massapequa, but were unable to determine who was making them. Melissa's mother noted that there were a lot of calls to Manorville from her daughter's phone around the time of her disappearance. In September 2017, a prosecutor suggested John Bittroff, a carpenter from that town convicted of 2 other murders, might be responsible for some of the Gilgo Beach cases, and we'll talk about that towards the end. Melissa, like the other victims, was very tiny. She was only 4'10" and only weighed 95 pounds. She's a little bitty thing.
Wow, yeah.
And notice their ages, too. They're all very young.
Yeah, they're all like 20s.
Mm-hmm. The next victim is Megan Waterman. She was 22, lived in South Portland, Maine, and went missing on June 6, 2010, after placing advertisements on Craigslist as an escort. The previous day, she'd told her 20-year-old boyfriend that she was going out and would call him later. At the time of her disappearance, she was staying at a motel in Hauppauge, New York. I said that real fucking wrong. 15 miles northeast of Gilgo Beach. Her body was recovered in December 2010, again when they were looking for Shannan. And actually, they found her before they found Shannan.
Yeah.
Megan was a mother of one and had become a victim of sex trafficking in her life and had kind of escaped that and was more on her own, and she's really sad.
Yeah.
These 4 women are called the Gilgo 4 and were all found in December of 2010. But additional victims would be found in the following months.
Yeah.
So here are the victims that were found after. And look, I have a list of like 20 other people who could possibly fit in with the victim list. We don't have time for that today. So I'm just going to pause right here and say, if you want to see case photos, the list of all the suspected victims, all of that will be on our Patreon. Social media doesn't like pictures of crime scenes and such, which
Right.
understandable. I don't think, you should be innocently scrolling and come upon that. You should be
No.
looking at it on purpose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we put that up on Patreon for free. You do not have to be a paid member. So just go to our link tree, click our Patreon link, or you can click support the show. That will also take you to our Patreon. And there you can look at all of this information. And I'll be including the entire 911 call there as well.
Right.
So this victim was originally called Jane Doe number 6, or the Manorville Jane Doe. Her name was Valerie Mack, and sometimes she also went by Melissa Taylor. She had an alias.
Right.
Valerie Mack was 24. She was living in Philadelphia and working as an escort when she went missing in 2000. Like many of the victims, she was very small in stature. She was only 5 feet tall and only weighed about 100 pounds. Her partial remains were discovered in Manorville on November 19th, 2000, but were not identified until 2020. Her torso was found wrapped in garbage bags and dumped in the woods near the intersection of Halsey Manor Road and Mill Road, which was adjacent to a set of power lines and a nearby power line access road. Mm-hmm. I don't know why this information gets included, but I include it because they included it, the researchers.
Maybe it's helpful. Who knows?
A head, right foot, and hands found on April 4th, 2011 were at first determined to have belonged to an unidentified victim dubbed Jane Doe number 6. It was later found that they belonged to the same woman whose torso had been found in the year 2000. Her right foot had been cut off high above the ankle, possibly to conceal an identifying marker tattoo. On May 28, 2020, police announced that the remains had been identified as Valerie Mack, who had last been seen by family members in the spring or summer of 2000 in the area of Port Republic, New Jersey. The dismembered remains of Valerie Mack and Jessica Taylor were both disposed of in a similar manner and in the same part of Manorville, which suggests a link to those 2 cases. Jessica Taylor, age 20, was living in Manhattan when she went missing on July 21, 2003. On July 26, 2003, her naked and dismembered torso, missing its head and hands, was discovered 45 miles east of Gilgo Beach in Manorville, New York. These remains were identified by DNA later that year. Taylor's torso was found atop a pile of scrap wood at the end of a paved access road off Halsey Manor Road, just north of where it crosses the Long Island Expressway. Plastic sheeting was found underneath the torso, and a tattoo on her body had been mutilated with a sharp instrument. Now, usually when we run into serial killers and we see mutilated remains, it's because they enjoy mutilating them. This is not the case in this one.
Okay, well, ugh.
The person is doing this to obscure their identity.
Yeah, but still, ugh.
Oh, it's just disgusting.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I can't.
No.
And I won't.
No.
Oof.
Yeah.
Further remains found on March 29th, 2011 matched Jessica, including a skull, a pair of hands, and a forearm. She had worked in Washington, D.C. and Manhattan as a sex worker. Jessica was last seen working around the Port Authority bus terminal in Manhattan between July 18th and the 22nd in 2003. Karen Vergata, or the Fire Island Jane Doe, or Jane Doe number 7. Karen Vergata was a 34-year-old woman from Manhattan. She was believed to have been working as a sex worker when she disappeared in 1996. She remained unidentified for 27 years.
Jesus.
Karen was variously known as Jane Doe number 7 and Fire Island Jane Doe until she was publicly identified, and she had been, and this was in August of 2023, actually.
Mm-hmm.
She was identified in 2022 through genetic genealogy, but they didn't release that to the public until August of 2023.
Right.
Karen's severed legs were found in a garbage bag on Fire Island on April 20th, 1996. 15 years later, on April 11th, 2011, her skull and several of her teeth were recovered at Tobay Beach, the second set of remains to be discovered in Nassau County that day. These remains were linked through DNA testing to the remains found on Fire Island in 1996. I just think that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they'll find one piece.
Yeah.
And then years later find the rest.
I don't understand it, but whatever.
Well, clearly the attempts to obscure their identity worked. She went unidentified for nearly 30 years.
Yeah.
And a lot can change then, you know?
Yeah.
So those are the known and unidentified victims. When I see so many victims and all of them are sex workers, it just makes me really sad. I feel these cases take a backseat to other cases just because of what the victims did to make money.
Yeah.
At any rate, in July of 2023, a suspect for 3 of the Gilgo 4 was arrested. But before I get into that, I want to do an update on Shannan's mother, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Mary endlessly and tirelessly advocated for her daughter, Shannan, and petitioned to get her case reopened. It's mostly because of her and her dedication that there was any movement on this case at all in any of the other cases.
Well, that's because the police don't give a fuck.
No. In fact, if she'd not harangued the police and bothered them so much, they would have never found all those other women.
You know, they're very busy arresting those marijuanas. You know, like when you inject a bong and, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just...
Gotta put you in jail for life for that shit.
Those dangerous marijuanas where it's helping their PTSD. You don't want that. You
No.
want any, medicine that works.
Or, instead of arresting people for drugs, we could help them with treatment so that they get better.
I'll get out of town. That's socialism.
I know. Golly.
We can't have that communist talk here.
I'm practically a commie saying that stuff.
Health. We don't do that in America.
No, you're gonna raw dog this shit.
No. Domestic violence guys, we just let them straight on the street. It's fine,
Yeah, it's absolutely. Oh, we give them a badge.
Yeah.
67% of police officers have had domestic violence issues in their life.
Oh, Lillian, don't call them out like that.
What are they gonna do?
Not arrest you? Oh no, they would arrest you.
I don't know. I just look like a white mom.
If you have one marijuanas, you're going to jail forever.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Anyway. This is very sad about Mary Gilbert. She was stabbed to death by her 27-year-old daughter, Sarah, in Sarah's apartment building on Warren Street in Ellenville, New York, on July 23, 2016. Her daughter, Sarah, suffered from schizophrenia, with one report claiming that she, quote, had voices in her head telling her to carry out the crime. Sarah was charged with second-degree murder and fourth-degree possession of a weapon, convicted of murder, and sentenced to 25 years in prison in August of 2017. She is imprisoned in the Bedford Hills Correctional Facility for Women. And man, could that just be a sadder end to that fucking woman's life?
That's very sad. Yeah.
I can't cope. It's terrible. And I feel bad for the remaining sister, Stevie.
Yeah.
Like, you lose your sister, you lose your mom, and you lose your other sister because she killed your mom.
I would need a lot of therapy.
Poor thing. Finally, in December of 2015, the FBI became involved in the Long Island serial killer case. 5 years later, police would release photos of a belt they believed had belonged to one of the victims or had come off their person, had the initials HM on it. In 2022, they would release the entirety of the 911 call made by Shannan. An initial person of interest named in 2017 was John Bittrolf. He was a Suffolk County resident convicted of murdering 2 sex workers and suspected in the murder of a third. Investigators believe he may have committed some of the Gilgo Beach murders. Prosecutor B.N. Calvilla, that was hard to say, said that Biltroff was likely responsible for the deaths of other women and that there were similarities between the Gilgo Beach crime scenes and his known murders, for which he was convicted in May 2017 and sentenced in September. Biltroff was arrested in 2014 after his DNA was found on the bodies of 2 murder victims, Rita Tangretti and Colleen McNamee, whose bodies were found in 1993 and 1994. And the DNA had been submitted by his brother, not voluntarily. His brother got arrested for another crime. Apologies, my dog is stupid. I don't know why she's beeping. Anyway, his brother gets arrested. And when they arrest you, you commit a felony, they take your DNA and they put it into the database.
Yeah.
Well, it is a kind of a soft match because his brother had committed these murders. That's how he linked him. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
So Suffolk County Police did not comment on the prosecutor's statement due to the active homicide investigation ongoing at the Gilgo Beach murders. And John's attorney has been outspoken in saying that his client didn't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Biltroff lived in Manorville. Remember, a lot of the phone calls, like the prank phone calls, came from Manorville.
Right.
And he was 30 miles from where the torsos of Gilgo Beach victims Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack were recovered. Biltroff was a hunter who was said to really enjoy killing animals.
Yeah.
He was a carpenter by trade, so that means he had access to the tools used to dismember these women, like hacksaws and electric saws. Because many of the bodies were found very precisely dismembered, his access to and proficiency with the tools kind of makes him a prime candidate.
Ugh, it's so gross.
But the thing is he's not the only one. I do believe he killed more than just the two he was convicted of killing.
Well, if you do one, you're probably going to do more.
But we got another one, baby. Yeah. So the adult daughter of Rita Tangretti, who was murdered by Biltroff, was also the best friend of Melissa Barthelemy, one of the Gilgo Beach victims. Barthelемy's mother said that her daughter, Melissa, had a lot of calls to Manorville from her phone before her death. Yeah. So basically, I think he was responsible for a couple of those. Yeah. But this next creepy, disgusting motherfucker probably did the rest.
Oh, God. That's a bunch of murderers. I hate it.
Yeah. In July 2023, Rex Andrew Howerman, I don't know how to say his last name. He was a 15-year-old Nassau County resident. He was arrested in Midtown Manhattan and then subsequently charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, as well as 3 counts of a lesser charge of second-degree murder related to the deaths of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello.
My dumbass brain thought you meant that he was 15 years old.
No, he is
15 years he lived there.
Yeah.
I'm just stupid.
He is also a prime suspect in the death of Maureen Brainerd Barnes. He pleaded not guilty, obviously. He is an architect and has lived much of his life in the Massapequa Park on Long Island. In an interview on YouTube, he said that he worked in Manhattan since 1987. That's important because the murders all take place between 1996 and 2011.
Okay.
Authorities began to see him as a suspect in March 2022 after discovering that a Chevrolet Avalanche registered in his name had been linked to one of the killings by a witness. According to investigators, his cell phone records indicate that he had been in contact with 3 of the 4 victims, and an email account linked to him had conducted online searches of the investigators' progress.
You can Google yourself, you dumbass.
Yeah. Court records also stated that he searched the internet for, oh boy, here we go.
How to murder.
Sadistic materials, child pornography.
Oh, dear.
And then images of the victims and their families.
Gross.
Because he's a giant dirtbag.
Right.
So mitochondrial DNA testing indicated him as a potential match when hair found on the burlap wrappings of one of the bodies was compared to a sample that they got from a pizza crust in a box he'd discarded. So basically they tailed him, waited for him to throw away some trash with a spit on it, and then that's how they linked him to these murders.
Right.
Also, a potential match to his wife was also found comparing hair found on or near 3 of the victims to samples taken from bottles found in the trash outside of their house. Now, that's not to imply his wife did anything. Her DNA is going to be all over him because they live together.
Yeah.
And when they did research on all the times when those women went missing, his wife and children were out of town.
Yeah.
So this is just what he did when the wife and the kids went to visit their grandma or something.
That's real fucked up, my dude.
It is really fucked up. So I'm not too conflicted on this. I do think that I don't think they work together necessarily. Biltroff and Howerman. I think, which I can't say his fucking name right, but I don't even want to bother because fuck him.
I don't know.
It's like several U's and H's and R's. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But basically, I don't think they were working together, although that is possible. It's happened before.
I just don't fucking know.
But I do think that they operated in the same circles. and one may have been a copycat of the other.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
But I do think they're both responsible. And just the thing that's sad is, like, how do we determine who killed who, you know?
Because they don't fucking know, do they? I'm like...
He's been linked. So out of the Gilgo 4, Rex has been linked to 3 through DNA.
Yeah.
But see, they were all just so interconnected. It's really weird. It's a weird case.
Yeah.
I hope Shannan finally gets classified as a homicide.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the investigators think happened is that she freaked out.
Yeah.
She was all on drugs. She wasn't, by the way. But anyway,
who cares if she was? Like, what?
And then ran into the ocean and drowned. And I just am not buying that.
No,
y'all.
I don't
it's
think
stupid.
Because it's strangulation.
Well, I mean, I guess it could have happened post-mortem, but I doubt it.
I just don't think so. No, because
think she was
wouldn't another bone be damaged then?
Yeah, most of the victims were bludgeoned and or strangled or both.
Yeah, I just don't fucking buy that. Like,
No.
oh, the fucking crabs did it when she was out there. No.
No.
Other bones would be damaged, not just the one that you used for strangling.
And so a lot of people though want to wonder how did she run across the killer? And I know how. If you remember, one of the phone calls to the victims' families said he would watch her rot. I think he was literally doing that.
Yes, I did.
Either
take
John
that as
Biltroff or this Rex guy, they were out there literally visiting the scene of their handiwork.
Yes.
And she comes running. She's all distressed. And it was a crime of opportunity. She fit the bill. She's little. She's a sex worker. I don't think that he knew she was a sex worker necessarily, but he didn't care because she fit the description.
Well, no, because she was also going bananas, so he was like, probably calm down, and boo, boo, boo. And yeah, I completely agree with your scenario.
That's exactly what I think happened. So yeah, y'all, this was really rough. This month sucks.
This.
I'm sorry.
No aliens, no big feet.
No, sometimes you have to sit in on the crimes.
I don't like crimes. It's just sad.
It is very sad, but there's still unidentified victims. And so talking about it, maybe the right person will hear it and have some information.
Yeah.
And if any of y'all listening out there, all across the world, ever have information on one of these cases, do contact law enforcement. You can do so anonymously. I know I don't like law enforcement, but they do solve cases sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. Maybe if we tell them to quit making crimes themselves, they'd start working.
I think
on
they'll just beat us to death with a stick. Yeah. So now it's time for business time.
Business time.
Look, y'all, I don't have a lot of strength in me right now.
No,
I'm very tired.
Yeah.
I've been running my ass off for weeks and working myself to death.
It's always like that around the holidays.
I'm going to be honest, that's just my life. I always say, oh, it's just a busy time. I'm just a busy bitch.
Yeah.
So business time is short today.
Yeah.
Number one, y'all ought to check out Maris's new podcast. Maris, talk about it.
Well, it's called Reality because, because this is cruelty. So anyway, where I talk about reality shows that I watch, and I'm going to comment on it for your entertainment. And we are currently watching season 18 of The Sister Wife. There's only one now, so.
So you can't say Sister Wives.
No, it's just the one. And I can't tell you why if you don't know why, because
it'll spoiler it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't even have to, if you're not into reality TV, look, I get it. I'm not either. I'm forced to do this.
No, we're hate watching. So.
Yeah, we're hate watching. You can still listen to the show. We'll explain it to you. You'll know what's going on.
Yeah.
You'll know what's going on.
Yeah.
And Maris is just funny and cute, so that's nice too.
I try. It's getting spicy now in The Sister Wife. I
mean,
the
it's
first
very
couple
spicy.
episodes on season 18 are a real snoozer. But now
we're
the
getting
wives,
into it.
It's just a wife now. So.
It's a wife throwdown.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a wife Thunderdome.
It is.
How many
it's
bitches are there?
Four bitches
wives enter, one bitch leaves.
That's true.
You know?
That's a summary of the whole show.
It is. And it's it's sad in places, but these people put themselves on the TV.
Look, if you're going to put yourself on the TV, I'm going to watch you. That's how it's going to work.
And then I'm going to make a comment and you may not like it.
You won't like any of my comments.
No, they are shitty.
They are mean.
So, yeah, if you want to hear Maris snark at some reality TV, check out Reality Podcast, which I will leave a link in the description. Yeah. Moving right along. Hey, friends, guess what? We have a Patreon.
A Patreon.
I like
it fancier.
If you're feeling fancy and bougie. I'm not. I'm a garbage person, so it's Patreon for me. Anyway, let me tell you some of the shit we have covered recently. We just covered cannibal rapper Big Lurch. from he came from the whole explosion of hip hop and rap out of the late 90s. And you know what? He was amazing. He would have had a stellar career. But then he ate somebody. Before that, I covered Josh Duggar, also a giant piece of shit. Yeah, we hate him. He lives near us. So, yeah. But basically, we do 3 to 4 episodes exclusive to Patreon a month. We also have, and that's the tea, where I'm now doing 15-minute segments, kind of like mini cases where there's not really enough information.
It's like a podcast snack.
It is like a podcast snack.
You want podcast snacks, don't you? I want snacks in general.
I'm covering the case of a woman who wanted to be murdered. So it's a consensual homicide case. I'll be recording that probably tomorrow with Maris. Sorry about it. It's real fucking gross.
God.
I know. Look, I'll make it up to you. I'll cook you something good.
Yeah, an actual snack, not a podcast snack.
That's right. And also, that's where we keep all our case photos. And if you become a patron, you can vote on what we cover next, including our monthly themes. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Go to our Discord, though. You can also suggest cases, monthly themes, discuss the cases we've covered, give me your theories. What do you guys think happened to Shannan? Who do you think is the Long Island serial killer? Come on Discord and tell me. And share pictures of your kitty cats and what you made for dinner.
Yeah.
It's too late now, but we do fun shit in Discord all the time. We're doing Secret Santas right now.
It's really taken off, that's what I heard.
Yeah, there's a lot of
I heard it's like Santa chaos.
It was a bit of chaos, but I fixed it because I made a spreadsheet.
Jesus.
But yeah, come into our Discord. There's always people there to talk to. Everyone is super cool and very nice. We have a million channels for food and art and your pets and plants. And if you need to vent, so people can go in there and get say, oh, they're there. So it's just a good place. But other than that, that's all the business time that I have for today.
Yeah.
Do you have any business?
No, I already did are you talking about the bathroom or doing my business?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Somebody help me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm shutting that down right now.
Yep.
If all you can do is If all you can do to support this podcast is listen, thank you. I appreciate you. It's the reason we keep doing it.
Yeah.
Because if nobody listened, I'd fucking quit. This is a lot of work.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time, goodbye.
Bye.
Us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/Cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Willie B.